Hello everyone, and welcome back, Reagents. Firstly, I just wanted to thank you all for over 6,000 subscribers and over 100,000 views on the Ultimate Guide to the Outlast Trials, alongside the support on all the other Outlast related videos. With one of my last videos being a tier list ranking all of the trials and MKs in the game, I saw some comments wanting me to rank all of the prime assets here at the Sinyala facility. And if you don't know what a prime asset is, they are the main enemies within the Outlast trials, as they're the charismatic and sociopathic individuals that Murkoff have chosen to represent an archetype of a family member like your mom or dad, or even your creepy Uncle Lester.
It's time to have some fun with Uncle Samson.
But as of the Outlast Trials Season 5, there are currently 5 prime assets. Well, technically there's actually 6 prime assets given lore documents, so let's finally go over and rank every single prime asset currently within the Outlast Trials, from my least favorite to absolute favorite. We'll also be touching on their lore, on how exactly they went from normal-ish people to the crazy prime assets we see within the trial grounds. So with that being said, allow me to set the mood.
You little shit! Get over here!
Starting off at the very bottom, we have Prescott Whitehorn. Now, I know a lot of you are probably confused. Who the fuck is this?
Wait a minute! Who are you?
Well, Prescott Whitehorn was actually a prime asset at the Sinyala facility during the first Lathe project, and he is the one who occupied the Academy trial environment. He is described as a tall, bald man, about the same size as the Big Grunts. It isn't confirmed on what family member Whitehorn was going to be, but given his size, age, and background, it's a pretty safe guess to say that he would have represented the grandfather archetype of the family. Personally, we don't know a lot about Prescott, but what we do know is that he was your all-around conservative patriot who loves his country and will die fighting for it. And to match that, his main weapon was going to be a shotgun that he would be able to use to shoot reagents at a distance, obviously building up a lot of kills, and I don't even want to imagine what he's doing with some of those dead bodies.
God damn it! What the fuck is the matter with you? You weren't invited to this, you goddamn sicko! You like to watch? It's sick. You're sick.
That's because Prescott would eventually have to be removed from Project Lathe entirely following an STD mishap that put him out of commission from being able to kill a bunch of reagents, so he was sent away to be treated for said STDs, but sadly never came back. At least, that's the way the story goes within the game, but in real life, it's quite a different story. As you can probably guess, Prescott Whitehorn was actually a cancelled prime asset that never made his way into the game. Now, that could be for many different reasons, like Red Barrel's not liking the direction the character was heading, or maybe he wasn't interesting enough to them. But the more likely option is the data breach that Red Barrel suffered in 2024. Now, personally, Red Barrels is my favorite game developers of all time, and there is nothing more that I love than people that are willing to put their houses on the line in the pursuit of good horror games and fellow Canadians. So it really sucks to hear that they suffered through a data breach, as a lot of upcoming content for the Outlast trials was leaked, including Whitehorn and his trial environment, the Academy, and a bunch of other content related to the Outlast trials and original games. So, assuming Red Barrels didn't want to work on stuff that was leaked in such early stages of development, it seems Whitehorn will never come to the game, as his shotgun mechanic has been given to a stupid little baby, and his main characteristics can definitely be seen in Otto Kress. Meaning Whitehorn has definitely been scrapped, and the best parts of him were given to other characters like Otto and Franco. However, Whitehorn still makes a few appearances in the game, even though it might not be physically. His name is plastered all over oil cans and petroleum in Franco's trial environments, And lastly, his name is written down on the naughty list in the Winter Kills 2024 room decoration. So since Whitehorn actually isn't in the game, he's gonna be coming in last. But now we'll be moving on to our very next prime asset, who is very much in the game and hopefully is the next prime asset to get an STD.
Miracle of birth. We have a beautiful, innocent baby.
A new archetype of appetite and childish dependence. Franco Barbi. A gangster and murderer. A trafficker. Franco is a man-child who would use heroin to infantilize the world. His psyche centered around a totem. A powerful symbol to compensate for painful deficiencies.
Oh, Franco, it's time to talk about you. Franco represents the baby of the family as he loves his milk, crying all the time like a little bitch, and sucking them titties. He loves sucking them titties so much, in fact, he has a whole vault of dismembered titties. But what you should really know about him is that Franco was born to a Louisiana mafia don named Salvatore Barbi. Franco didn't actually know his real mother, instead being raised by countless different stepmothers, and he would go on to commit his very first murder at only age 12, quickly joining his father's mafia as a debt collector and a hitman because of his total digression for human life. Now, it's very important to mention that Franco has erectile dysfunction, and because of that, he would always murder the women he was in bed with because they could just never do it for him. One day, Franco would finally meet the lady who could finally get him off. The only problem is that it may or may not be his very own stepmother. But that didn't stop him. But it sure as hell did piss off his dad, because once he found out, he beat Franco senseless, making him uglier than he already is, and instead of sending him to Brazil, he sent his ass to Cuba. Now, if you ask me, fucking your own stepmother and getting sent to Cuba for it doesn't really seem like a punishment, and Franco didn't feel like it was one either, because while in Cuba, Franco would commit multiple murders and eventually catch the eye of Murkoff. And if you know anything about Outlast, once Murkoff has their eyes on you, it's pretty much wraps. As not too long after committing the murders, Murkoff would find Franco and send his ass to the Senyala facility, but not as a reagent, but as a prime asset. It's also important to note that when Murkoff collection agent Clyde Perry went to collect Franco, he ended up just walking in on Franco chilling inside of a dead prostitute, really showcasing how much he wants to be a little baby. So, with Franco's lore out of the way, how exactly does Franco work within the Outlast trials? Well, Franco currently occupies 3 trial environments, that being the docks, downtown, and the suburbs. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Prescott Whitehorn was going to have a shotgun, and clearly that idea went straight to Franco, as Franco's main weapon is a sawed-off shotgun that he calls his Lupara, which translates to for the wolf in Italian and also means sawed-off shotgun. He will use it to blast your ass off from any range, and trust me, I would know. I had him blow my head off before. Because I'm an unrenowned goat of the Outlast tribe!
Finally, I fucking got him!
Anyways, I won't go in too much detail about what goes on exactly in all of the Prime Assets trial environments, as I have 2 separate 50-minute plus long videos talking about just that. But I will mention now that every single Prime asset has their very own unique trap that will be set up all over their trial environments, and Franco has the trap I promise you have taken the most damage to than anything else in the game, that being his laser tripwire traps, as these things are hidden all over his fucking trial environment, and if you run over it, it will explode. Dealing quite a bit of health, but thankfully, if you're paying attention, you can see the red line and jump on over it. And of course, if you have the unrenowned GOAT tool, the jammer, you will be able to hack them so they will explode that little fucker Franco instead of you or your team. Now, if you've been watching this channel for a while now, you probably know that I have some very strong feelings towards Franco because I fucking hate that little rat! And a lot of you are probably asking on why, so let me let you in on a little something. Back in mid-2025, me and 3 other friends would play Escalation for hours, and we would notice that certain prime assets would only go after one of us all the time. My good friend Dylan would eventually fall in love with Miss Futterman, and Enver would always get shocked to death by Coyle. And that left me always getting fucked by Franco. And it started as an inside joke that me and him have personal beef, and that was something I wanted to bring into this channel, but for a second, I'll be honest. I really do dislike his shotgun, as I feel like it really is bullshit, as Franco has better aim than most Navy SEALs, but it also doesn't help that I genuinely am not the biggest fan of Franco's trial environments. Mostly because I prefer trial environments to be interior, and don't get me wrong, it's a good mix-up to have some exterior maps, but all 3 of Franco's environments just feel the same to me. I know that they are still technically interior because it's a fake environment built in a facility, but you all know what I mean. Also, I know that some people expected to see Franco here at the bottom, but I know that he has quite a bit of fans, and for some reason people that want to marry him, but in comparison to all of the other prime assets, I think that he is one of the weakest, and I don't mean that as an insult. I genuinely do think his lore and character dynamic is extremely cool and intriguing to me, but I still can't stop hating that little rat fuck for always going after me and trying to blow my head off. But with that being said, let's move on to our very next family member.
If you're willing to listen, to be very quiet, very still. Being so fixated on your faith leaves you distracted, terribly vulnerable to something very real. Sister Liliya Bogomolova, an evangelist and priestess, a voice of peace, calling out for blood. An ascetic, dripping in hoarded treasure. She's a woman of God, a custodian of miracles, the product of a half-century of war and corruption, an avenging angel of divine retribution. She's waiting.
I am today.
She's gonna make you believe.
Now we have the newest prime asset, Sister Liliya Bogomolova, as she will serve as the daughter to the family dynamic, as Liliya was born to Russian landowners that were exiled during the Russian Revolution, and she would eventually live with her abusive mother until eventually being taken to a religious orphanage where she quickly found herself in love with the Bible, quickly starting to claim that she could hear the voice of God in her head telling her what to do. She would eventually return to her homeland during the siege of Leningrad, which is a real-world event that happened during 1941 throughout 1944, where the city was blocked off, not allowing residents of the city proper access to food and water and other amenities. Along with an active war in the city, it quickly led to the death of over 1.5 million people. According to the lore, Liliya was in this city during the time of this war, hiding under dead bodies just to stay alive. And Liliya would start even hunting some of the Nazi officers patrolling in the city, until eventually one of the Nazi officers found her and attempted to capture her. So, doing the most reasonable thing Liliya could think of, she slashed his face. So understandably, as a response, the Nazi officer just straight up cut off her arm. And when she cursed at him for it, he did what any other reasonable person would do and removed her tongue, not allowing her to speak. It is heavily implied that during her time captured, she was physically and sexually tortured by said Nazi officer until one day, through the work of God, Liliya somehow managed to regrow her very own tongue that was chopped off. Using it, she quickly convinced the rest of the Nazi party that was watching over her as a prisoner to quickly turn on their very own leader so she can get some quick revenge. Having the Nazis dismember their very own leader, the same one who tortured Liliya, until Liliya would quickly vanish into the night to never be seen again. Until a young George Nicholas was sent to investigate into Liliya, and it led him down quite a rabbit hole to the point where he had quite an unhealthy obsession over it. Until one day, he would stumble across an abandoned resort where he would find Sister Liliya Bogomolova, and after a brief exchange between the two, she convinced him to self-mutilate himself, but in return, she allowed herself to be brought to Mount Massive Asylum. Yes, the very same asylum from the first Outlast game. During her time at Mount Massive Asylum, she convinced the other patients and staff to cut out their own tongues and do even more self-mutilation. In the very first 6 months of her being there, she made Mount Massive lose 20% of their budget because of her influence. Well, I really hope the people at Signala don't hear about this, because they love getting sociopaths with influence in the trials. Oh, never mind. Well, thanks to Mr. Knisley, she's on her way to the Signala facility right now. So, with her lore out of the way, how exactly does Liliya work within the Outlast trials? Well, Liliya currently only occupies one trial environment, that being the resort, where she hides amongst a bunch of other mannequins dressed up as her. This also counts as Liliya's trap, as these fake Liliyas are scattered everywhere throughout the resort. And since there's a chance of any of those fuckers to be her, you will always be on your toes around them. Since she is the newest Prime asset, she only has one trial and no MKs yet, and she probably won't get any MKs until Season 6, which is pretty important because in the main trial, a big part of her gameplay revolves you having to get close to her, which I feel won't be a part of all of her MKs, but her mechanic of being a stealth Prime asset alongside her lore tying into the original Outlast game and real life is incredibly cool. Just because she is quite low on the list does not mean I dislike her. I am actually beyond excited to see her future trial environments and MK challenges, but especially a Liliya onboarding event, because the idea of playing Escalation and having to deal with her in somewhere like the Toy Factory is something I really want. So Red Barrels, please give Liliya an onboarding event. Hey everyone, Editing Limit Elixir here, and I just wanted to say that while I was editing this video, Red Barrels has officially announced the Advent of Bogomolova event that will be coming out in just a few days to the Outlast trials, and it will be bringing Liliya's onboarding event, which I am super excited for and definitely plan on making a video on. So with that being said, let's head on over to our very next family member.
You've shown real enthusiasm. We've decided to give you a longer leash.
You think you got a leash on me? Might be you built this little who's got out, but I'm the one who made it a home. Why, you ain't nothing but the town boy in my whorehouse.
I'm fucking talking here! This ain't a charity, this is business! Business don't mean shit without the law. Property don't mean shit without a threat of violence.
Sergeant Leland Coyle represents the father figure to the family dynamic, as he was born in the year 1923 in a small town in Oklahoma. During his youth, like most other sociopaths, he started abusing animals and quickly would move on to sexually abusing people, which would lead him down a path to join the KKK alongside the United States military. At only age 19, Coyle had already entered his first marriage. Sadly, however, his wife would pass away only 6 months later, and it was dubbed an accident. But after her death, he would get deployed in the Pacific Theater during World War II, where he got his KD up by an extra 5 kills. But according to some witnesses, some of those kills might have been friendly fire. After returning home from the war, Coyle would quickly pick back up his position in the KKK, but maybe he got bored with beating down black people in a white costume. Like most Klansmen of his time, he would quickly upgrade from his white KKK uniform to a regular blue police officer's uniform, where he was just as corrupt as you can possibly imagine a racist cop can get during this time. He also married again, but this time another accident happened, coincidentally, this one being an electrical fire that would kill his entire wife's family. However, she would survive and move to Chicago, where she was later found dead as it was labeled by natural causes, even though Coyle totally had nothing to do with it. Afterwards, Coyle would quickly be promoted to sergeant and quickly entered into another marriage. However, this time, his new wife just so happened to walk herself into a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head only within 1 year of being married to Sergeant Leland Coyle. Well, I would definitely be really worried for his next wife, but he might not be able to get his hands on another woman, as not too long after, Murkoff would eventually set up a meeting with Coyle at a local diner. But after things took a violent turn, his extreme strength and charisma was noted, and he was highly recommended for Project Lathe, and not too long after that, he would be shipped off to the Senyala facility as a prime asset. So with Coyle's lore out of the way, how exactly does Coyle work within the Outlast trials? Well, Coyle is currently the main prime asset to only 2 trial environments, that being Police Station and the Courthouse. Within those trial environments, Sergeant Leland Coyle will hunt you down with his electrified police baton, which is quite deadly, and will even disable your rig if you get hit by it. Also, Coyle really loves electricity, as when he's not mutilating his genitals with it, he also has electrified floor traps that you are going to want to watch out for, as those are his specific trap. Personally, I think it is a little weird that Coyle doesn't have a 3rd trial environment yet, but if he did ever get one, the first trial environment that I could think of would be a prison, as it would be quite fitting for him. I absolutely love Sergeant Leland Coyle, as I think he is one of the most funniest prime assets in the entire game, with some of the most quotable voice lines in the entire game.
We got fucking laws around here!
I love how much depth and care Red Barrels puts into all of the prime assets, with Coyle being a prime example of your typical racist fucking psycho hillbilly cop, brought to life by the amazing voice talent of Julian Bailey. So if you get scared while hearing Coyle yell at you, and you're also a masochist like myself, and you love to torture yourself, I promise you that this isn't the first time that you've heard his voice and made you get a shock of anxiety.
Op 4, last operator standing.
Since we're in this hellhole of a game for a second, I would also like to mention that Thermite's voice actor, and I hope I'm not butchering this, Carlo Mastroianni, is also the voice actor for Dr. Easterman. He is also voice acted as multiple different characters in all of the Outlast games. What a goat! With skills like that, he must be jumping pretty high. Speaking of GOAT voice actors who have voice acted in other Outlast games, I would also like to bring up the GOAT Daniel Brochu, who also does the voice acting for Franco, because if you all think that Franco sounds a little familiar, that's because he is also Buster Baxter from Arthur.
Just lie? You really think someone would do that? Just go on the internet and tell lies?
And as someone who grew up on PBS, who also owned postcards from Buster on DVD, It makes my favorite part about Franco his creepy yet nostalgic voice. But that's enough compliments for Franco. Let's return back to the therapy and let's move on to our very next family member.
You've been expressing anger in the therapy.
Everything Mother does is love. If I have to show a little discipline, that's just a firmer kind of love.
The fuck do you think I am? Some kind of puppet? You pull my string?
You're literally a puppet.
Don't you upset Daddy. Mother, in the name of God, in the midst and hearts of little children, who would die for their children?
Spread my fruit on the lips. We're both spread around here.
For our next family member, we have Mother Gooseberry, real name Phyllis Futterman. She represents the mother figure to the family dynamic, and quite the mother she is. Before becoming a crazy-haired lady wearing somebody else's face, she used to be a dental assistant to her father, Dr. Futterman, who was a dentist, alcoholic, and abusive father. But they were quite the duo. As they got so popular, they got their very own television studio called Futterland, where Phyllis would host a TV show called the Mother Gooseberry Hour, which started airing in 1951. The show got quite popular, but sadly Phyllis's father, Dr. Futterman, would pass away. And this would truly break Phyllis, as once a young, talented woman started turning into an abusive drug addict who started using her position as a television host to get children addicted to different kinds of narcotics. Her show, The Mother Gooseberry Hour, would also have a total tonal shift, as the show would take a cult-like direction that would eventually catch the eyes of the police, leading to the eventual raid on Futterland Studios in 1955, leading to the death of 2 police officers and multiple injuries. What they found inside of the TV studio remains unknown to the public, but the captain of the police, Stanley Rode, described the contents of the studio as the most grotesque architectural preservation since the H.H. Ohm's Chicago murder castle. If you don't know what that is, in 1887, Dr. Henry Holmes owned a building with a very confusing layout very close to the Chicago World Fair, where he would lure his victims in to murder them for insurance fraud. This story is quite popular and very exaggerated, claiming that it was a hotel for torture with elaborate and inhumane torture devices all throughout the place. And since we're talking about Outlast, we can probably imagine that this version of events of the murder castle was the most evil version that you can possibly imagine. Well, Futterland was somehow worse. Now, I know we have Futterland in-game as the Fun Park trial environment, but it isn't the same as the real-life Futterland that was a TV studio, and to be honest, I really hope that we can see what that looks like in the form of a trial environment, seeing the true horrors of Futterland TV studios. But that would give Miss Futterman 4 trial environments. But what I think would be a really cool and unique thing to see is they could share this trial environment with Otto and Arora, giving us our very first dual prime asset environment, given Otto's place in political media and Futterman's place in control of the media. That would make for such a cool dynamic. But after the raid, Miss Futterman was arrested and sent to the Holmesburg North Prison of Philadelphia, where she would be experimented on, leading to horrific mutilation and disfiguration. One day, she was lucky enough to get a meeting with good old Mr. Clyde Perry, and after his interview with Phyllis, he conducted that she would be a perfect candidate for Project Lathe. And not too long after that, she would be shipped off to the Senyala facility to start being every reagent's favorite loving mother. But with her lore out of the way, how does Miss Futterman work within the Outlast trials? Well, she currently occupies 3 trial environments, that being the orphanage, Fun Park, and the Toy Factory, where she will hunt you down with her father, Dr. Futterman. Now, I know what you're thinking. How is he here? Isn't he dead? Well, physically yes, but mentally no, because within Phyllis's mind as a coping mechanism, Miss Futterman has a split personality where she'll jump in between herself and her father, Dr. Futterman, having full-blown conversations with herself, showcasing the very interesting father and daughter relationship that they once had.
I should have called you, mistake, and then I should have called the orphanage, Daddy!
Dr. Futterman has been brought back in the form of a hand puppet with a drill in his mouth that, if you get hit by, will do bleed damage that can only be repaired by healing yourself with a bandage. And within her trial environments, you'll also want to be careful of the branded Dr. Futterman bombs, as if you get too close to them, they will explode. And this is Miss Futterman's unique trap that will be scattered throughout all of her trial environments. Personally, I love Dr. Futterman, as I think he is absolutely hilarious, and honestly, Miss Futterman is an amazing prime asset. And we basically get two prime assets in one, as Dr. Futterman is basically so unique, he is his own character. But what if there was another prime asset that was also two characters in one, but had a sick and disgusting twist to it? Well, buckle in, as we're going to be talking about our very last family member.
A new archetype has arrived. Forebears of tradition, an enduring moral order, forced into shadows by the circumstances of their biology, elevated to wealth and power by sheer force of will. Otto and Arora Kress. Sister dear.
Yes, lover?
These rough beasts would like to make our acquaintance.
Two very different kinds of genius. Her gifted in chemistry, him gifted in politics. Opposite and complementary tools of manipulation. Always watching, never out of reach. The fountainhead of a medicated and managed future.
Lastly, we are moving on to our last member of the family and my favorite prime assets, Otto and Arora Kress, who represent the grandparent figure of the family dynamic, as they were both born to Anton Kress in 1899, being born into the wealthy Kress estate, as their father was the founder of the very successful Kress Chemical Company, the same chemical that their mother was exposed to during pregnancy, leading to Otto and Arora to be horrifically conjointed. But that didn't stop them from pursuing greatness, as Otto and Arora would be extremely intelligent and great at what they pursued, as Otto focused on politics and all the manipulation that comes with it. With Arora, on the other hand, she is extremely gifted in chemistry. But behind the scenes of their greatness, there was a way darker side to them, as their influence and greatness had led them to Buffalo, New York, to work on expanding their family's chemical company, but they also had quite a thirst for blood, committing horrendous murders, eventually being dubbed by the police as the Buffalo Minotaur. And I guess they had a difficult time with other relationships with other people, as Otto and Arora just decided, well, if we're fused together, we might as well be sexually involved with each other.
Sister dear.
Yes, lover?
Considering what is located on Otto's neck. But eventually, their father would take wind of their murders and incestuous acts, leading him down a path of alcoholism and anger and pure disgust of what his children had become. One night, Anton would drug Otto and Arora and attempt to forcefully separate them via surgery, which of course would ultimately kill them. But in retaliation, Otto and Arora fought back and ended up winning. And instead of just killing their father for what he tried to do to them, they kept him alive for as long as humanly possible, torturing him in the most insane ways that you can possibly imagine, like giving him a taste of his own medicine by cutting him in half and stitching him back together the wrong way, just like they are. Quite a signature for the Buffalo Minotaur, and with public interest in the murders going up, Murkoff would eventually hear about it and send Clyde Perry to go investigate the Buffalo Minotaur. Coincidentally, right around the same time that their actions had caught up to them, Otto and Aurora were arrested for the murders that they had committed, but Clyde Perry would quickly swoop in and get them relieved from prison and into Murkoff custody, as the murders they committed were quickly covered up as a chemical leak. Within Murkoff's custody, they would work on perfecting the chemicals within the trial grounds alongside a Japanese scientist from Unit 731. And if you don't know what that is, you'll need to go look it up for yourself. But all I'll say is this is where humanity conducted some of the most horrendous atrocities in human history. Almost like a real-life Sinyala facility, but somehow fucking worse. With Otto's charisma and charm and optimistic attitude matched Aurora's pessimistic and charming attitude, Murkoff really got some bang for their buck as they started using them as a prime asset as well as a chemical engineer. But with their lore out of the way, how exactly do Otto and Aurora work within the Outlast trials? Well, Otto and Aurora currently only have one trial environment, that being the shopping mall, which is also my favorite trial environment. I am pretty confident that they will receive their second trial environment within Season 6 this spring. Otto and Aurora will hunt you down with Otto's humongous handheld circular saw, and holy shit, that is gonna hurt more than any other weapon in this facility. And while he's chasing you, his sister Aurora will throw flasks of poison at you, and if you get hit by one, you'll get sick and puke all over the floor, losing a bracket of health. And since you're standing still to puke, it gives Otto more than enough time to catch up to you and saw you in fucking half. Luckily, however, if you have an antidote, you can quickly cure yourself of Aurora's poison. But be really careful on where you're running when you're being chased by them, as their unique traps are the same poison that Aurora throws at you, just dangled up for you to run into all over their trial environment. Thankfully, however, if you have an antidote, you can just cure yourself of that too. Personally, I absolutely love Otto and Aurora's dynamic, as one being an optimist and one being a pessimist, both skilled in their respective fields, and being respected figures that also have a dark secret, with them being incestuous lovers alongside sociopathic murderers. Man, Red Barrels is really good at making these prime assets as sick as fuck as they come. And I really love the voice interactions between Dr. Futterman and Phyllis, as they are quite funny. But the interactions between Otto and Aurora are so disgusting and chilling, I find it absolutely perfect, as the awareness of what they're doing with little to no problem doing it, and the fact that they have no problem getting really fucking freaky within the trial environments.
I believe you have something on your collar, Otto.
Oh?
Below your right ear.
Oh.
And since their main trial environment is a shopping mall, and my liminal ass is a sucker for vintage malls, it gets me just to fucking drool all over the place, like I do when I see a piece of that sweet fucking Aurora! Alongside that, I think Coyle really needs his third trial environment, as it's quite awkward that he doesn't have one yet. But I think it would be quite poetic if they wait for the last trial environment they release into the game before they shift development to Outlast 3 to star the first prime asset that started it all. But with that being said, I really hope you all enjoyed the video, and please let me know what other Outlast Trials videos you would like. But until then, behavior! Please give Chucky a Phantom of the Opera skin. Thank you all so much for watching, and goodbye.